Hello and welcome to Creative Curriculum 101. In this video, let's talk about read-alouds. Every day in your program, you're expected to do a read-aloud with your children. Your study guide gives you guidance in your books and which one to do each day. So your read-aloud and then the book guidance to give you. Some of the books you'll find as you go through your curriculum, you're like, I think I'd like to substitute this book. Know that in the back of your study guide for your read-alouds, there is or getting books in your centers or anything that relates to your study, there's a list of children's books that go with your study in the back of your study guide. So read-alouds. Your curriculum sets you up with a read aloud every day, but it does not set you up with a interactive dialogic read every day. And in your program, Rocky Head Start, you are expected to do a dialogic read every day. So this is a little bit different than what your curriculum sets you up for. More intentional, really delivers that oral language and vocabulary objective with your kiddos. I want to give you a little bit of a why behind the dialogic read. It works, and children who have been read to dialogically are substantially ahead of children who have been read to traditionally on some studies that they've done, and you can see a difference in just a couple of months in their vocabulary and oral language. So dialogic reads, let's talk about them. Your curriculum sets you up to do 3 repeated reads, and I suggest doing 3, maybe 4 if those kiddos are interested in the story. And in a dialogic read, you start with the first read, which is pretty teacher-led, and then you transition from the teacher being the storyteller to getting some recall and some discussion going, some dialogue, and then turning the kiddo becomes the storyteller on the 3rd and 4th read. So with each dialogic read, you're going to do the 4-step vocabulary routine. So make sure you watch the video on that explicit vocabulary instruction and 4-step vocabulary, and then you do the dialogic read. So let's talk about a first read. With a dialogic read, you always introduce the title and the author and the illustrator, and then as you go through a first read, the first read is very much a lot of noticing, a lot of vocabulary taught within the book, and really getting a sound comprehension of the main events and the storyline, what's going on. So introducing key vocabulary words and stopping to clarify as needed. So on your shared Google Drive, there is a complete cycle of dialogic reads, a first read, a second read, and a third read of this book, and it's real time in a classroom with real kids. So if you want to get that, you can, after this video, you can go watch a first read, a second read, and a third read with kiddos. So, for instance, on a first read, you would read the text first. One afternoon, a little red bird saw a lion with a bushy green tail, as green as the forest. The bird had never seen anything so unusual, so strange, a little weird, and so pretty. Just looking at it made her happy. Show me a happy face. So you'll notice as I read this first word, I did a little teaching of vocabulary, but my audience might not have even known that I stopped reading the words because the word was unusual. And the real sentence in the book says the bird had never seen anything so unusual and so pretty. It was unusual, it was strange, it was weird. And I will teach that vocabulary within my first read and second read without them even knowing that maybe I've quit reading. Or any chance I get their bodies involved. Just looking at the green tail made the bird happy. Show me a happy face. Okay, get some emotion, get some total physical response. We call it TPR. Get some total physical response coming out of the kiddos anytime you can get that active engagement going with those kids. So we're noticing, this lion has a green tail. Have you ever seen a lion with a green tail? That's strange, that's unusual. The bird is wondering why. And just looking at it makes her happy. I wonder what's going on here. So the teacher is kind of doing some clarifying, maybe some more noticing of the book and teaching vocabulary within. So here comes the little bird and she says, "Lion, lion, why is your tail so green?" So get the kids chirping with you, because this little bird starts chirping and they'll get the little sign language for bird. But the lion didn't understand the bird's language. The lion didn't speak bird. The lion was just like, "What? Why are you chirping at me?" He thought she was simply chirping, and he smiled at her. Everybody smiled like the lion is smiling at the bird. He doesn't understand her language. She chirps. Does he chirp? No, he doesn't speak bird language. So clarifying statements. You don't want to ramble on too much and lose the flow of the story, but you're beefing up the comprehension and you're beefing up the vocabulary you're delivering to the kiddos. So first read, very much teacher-led, very much clarifying, getting that storyline going, and lots of vocabulary instruction within. You don't stop and teach a word, but I call it fast mapping. You just say if the word is it dashes out the door. It went quickly out the door. They don't even know that you've quit reading a lot of the time. So first read. And then on a second read, the second read is very much where you bring in those WH questions. So in a dialogic reading cycle, you'll hear the CROWD acronym, and CROWD it's the acronym they do for your questioning technique. So the C would be a completion prompt. Maybe you'll just leave off the end of a sentence and they complete it. R is for recall. What kind of recall do they have? What can they remember? Open-ended questions, the WH questions, who, what, why, when, and distancing prompts, connecting the book to real world. And I like to save a lot of my distancing prompts for the third read, but when you read about Dialogic reads, that CROWD acronym will come up quite a bit. So let's talk about the second read, where a lot of those crowd questioning techniques will come up. In a second read, you get their feedback first, like, what's happening here? Do you remember what's happening? And hopefully they'll give you something like, the bird sees the lion's green tail and thinks it's weird. Yeah, and have a back and forth dialogue about this, and then read the text. In the second read, we're going to ask you to implement peer sequence. And peer sequence is just a quick, easy oral language expansion. So here's my peer sequence. I can't think up peer sequence on my own, so when I'm reading a book, I do a little sticky note on the page I want to do peer sequence, and then when I get to that page, the kids don't usually notice. I take it off, and I hear, so peer, P-E-E-R, the P is for prompt. Does the lion understand the bird? And then the first E is evaluate. See what answer they give you and evaluate it. No. You're right. Then I am going to expand on it. The next E. The lion doesn't understand the bird's language. And now the R stands for repeat. You have the kids repeat that complete sentence. Say that. The lion doesn't understand the bird's language. And then you have the kids. The lion doesn't understand the bird's language. So the question was, does the lion understand? And they gave me back, no. The lion doesn't understand the bird. And I just beefed it up a little bit. I added the word language in there and had them talk in a complete sentence. So peer is super easy. You can do it during choice time. Second reads are great for peer sequence. But it can be as easy as, what is that? And they say, it's a truck. And you say, yes, that is a red truck. Repeat that. That is a red truck. Just expanding just a little bit, and complete sentence. Great oral language strategy. So second read, lots of crowd questioning. Add that peer sequence in 2 or 3 times, and get some recall, lots of recall. What's happening here? Why did this happen? What's going on? Ask some questions, and then read the text. So there's the second read. The third read, hopefully you're turning the story over to the children almost completely, and they can just retell it. I watched a fourth read of this book in a classroom, and the teacher didn't read a word of the text on her fourth read. The kids were going, "Lion, lion, why is your tail so blue?" And she didn't read any of it. It wasn't verbatim, but a lot of it was pretty close. So on the third read, a lot of times I like to let them fill in the blanks, those completion prompts, and then distancing prompts too, like those higher level questions of, in real life, would a lion have a green tail? In real life, would a lion use his tail for a paintbrush? And having these higher level, distinguishing between fantasy and reality, or just those higher level questions. Or would a lion ever go out and rescue a bird out of a tree in a storm? Probably not, but man, this lion is awful friendly and helpful. Or if you're reading it and you get to the part, just looking at it made her and the kids fill in the blank of it made her happy. So if they can complete the sentence, just leave it off and see what they can give you. So third read, you turn the story over to them as much as possible and let them tell the story. The fourth read, even more so, turning it over even more. And it really depends on the book. Some books they'll want 10 times, and some books, even a third read is difficult for them. I'm thinking of the book Make Way for Ducklings. It's hard to turn it over. It's hard for them to become the storyteller on the third read. You really need to do a fourth read for them to truly become the storyteller, because it's a long and more complex book. The simpler ones, the highly predictive ones, or those high interest books, it's easier on the third read. They do take it over. They know that story and they want to tell it. So that is a really quick explanation of what a dialogic read is. We could do a full day training on dialogic reads with 4-step vocabulary, but there's the basics for you, and enjoy.